Hello everyone, this is Darko 2012. I'm reading an article titled America's Artificial Rift, the Two-Party System. It was posted on December 28th, 2009. Let's see. Alright. On any given day, you can find a news story that focuses on the conflict between Democrats and Republicans, or Group A and Group B. These groups could be anything, but as long as they are touted as being the opposite of each other, they will clash. When one party supports a bill, the other tends to oppose it. This holds true for both sides, creating a never-ceasing battle over political parties, as opposed to policy. The change in each party's fundamental policies has been warped into an, I can't pronounce this, infinitesimally minute amount of distinction from one another. When one does not agree with the Republican stance, they generally lean towards a Democratic stance. The guise of the two parties creates a false sense of freedom and liberation from a structured ideal. The Soviet Union's single-party system was a failure due to its inability to withstand a dissident attack. The United States two-party system is simply the post-beta form of the Soviet Union political spectrum, with the guise of liberty upon its aging fangs. Well said. Holding hands. The word paradigm, compounded from its Greek root word to show, accurately describes the dimension between the left and the right party. This paradigm requires a vice grip of social ideology held together for stability. A single party's influence can break, without a backboard to cater towards any dissidents. Two parties can stand up against one another and to create both geometrically and intellectually a more powerful structure that can withstand intense dissidence from each party for one reason. The rebellion of the first party's ideals are reciprocated by the second. And he goes on to talk about real issues. The war between the left and the right diminishes the focus on the real issues. A frighteningly large number of people will make all their decisions based upon their party leaders. The debate turns into left versus right instead of what is best for the country. The mainstream media loves to turn everything into a matter of party wars instead of discussing the actual issues at its core. Instead of thinking left or right, think about it from a human perspective. What will this do to our country? How will it affect me? How will it affect my neighbors? Thinking for yourself, imagine for a moment that your car is broken down. You go to use a car dealership and search around for a nice car. There are no price tags on the cars, but the place seems rather professional. You find a car you like, and it looks like it's in pretty decent condition. You ask about the price, and the salesman says it will cost you $95,000. In this case, most people would first investigate the true value of the car before purchasing it. While it seems completely logical to find the true value of the car, many do not take this metaphorical step when it comes down to the left versus right. Placing blind trust in the leaders of the political party is just like trusting the used car salesman to give you the best price. Find out the truth for yourself, as it's the only way to truly find out what's going on. Media spins. The mainstream media loves to take legitimate topics and turn them into a battle between political parties. A perfect example is the healthcare bill. Even though it has ridiculous policy changes and a eugenics-based provision system, it is still turned into a left versus right issue by the media. Luckily, people have begun to see through this false two-party system and are beginning to realize that they are being played. The mainstream media's deception is wearing off quite rapidly as the public begins to realize that they are being duped. The public is realizing that regardless of which party the current political figurehead puppet is affiliating himself with, he is still the same as the previous leader. It is a vicious cycle. It is a vicious cycle that continues to this day. The difference is that now people are waking up to this cycle and opposing it. Ally yourself with humanity, not parties. You do not have to waste time on petty arguments that center around the false party wars. Use your time to get real information out, like the implications of the healthcare bill or the shocking dangers of the vaccinations. True patriotism is to have thoughts that do not derive from the structured and targeted news media or the famous political puppets in your region. And to make a point on this, as far as the Soviets' single-party system, I love this point that he made as far as he says the Soviet Union's single-party system was a failure due to its inability to withstand a dissident attack. the two-party system is great because, well, if you're a globalist and you're trying to push, you know, anti-sovereignty issues onto the citizens, right? And you want to keep the illusion that their vote still counts, right? That their vote still matters. I mean, that's as far as the United States political system goes. I mean, they're trying to they have the same issue with imposing world governance in the United Nations and all their charters and laws and mandates. The elites even say that that is their biggest issue, is getting the people all the way in America to be convinced that they can be governed all the way from across the pond in Europe, and that it's going to be democratic. Those are the two things that they know that the American people don't like, is that they're far away and that our voices isn't going to be heard. So as long as they can at least convince, and this is even how they word it, as long as they can give us at least they can give us the appearance that there's some kind of competition or variety, that will at least prolong confidence in what is really a dictatorship, right? It appears, it may appear to be a democracy or a republic or a system that isn't totally dictatorial, right? But the Soviet Union had such a hard time because they couldn't move to something else when people started to descend from the communist party, because it just wasn't working. There was nowhere else to go but to get rid of communism and get rid of the Communist Party. And of course, we all know it filled the vacuum. But what I'm getting at is it's a lot easier to control people when they'll just sit there and fight each other over political what do you call it? Loyalty, right? Instead of bringing issues like, well, do you want this person to be your slave master, or do you want this person to be your slave master? Like back in back in the slave days, instead of asking the slave, do you want to be a slave? Do you not want to be a slave? And that question is never asked. It's just pick your slave owner. And so that's the type of system that we get. So people will never really repudiate a democracy or republic like we have, where there's, in England and whatnot, in Australia, where we have different parties, labor parties, whatever they call it. They always have these two parties that are funded by globalists, right? By banks, by defense contractors. And you can even tell. You can look from their own numbers as far as campaign contributions to the last election, and you'll see that the defense contractors such as Boeing and Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, they gave the same amount of money to each party. Each party. I know I say that party weird, but that's. It just goes to show you that each party is bought out. And when you see all the money going to one candidate, well, that means that they're going to be able to get more money back to them. And so they invest more into a candidate like Barack Obama instead of McCain, because they know that they can get more money in return, a return on investment. Which is exactly what they're going to get and what they're getting now. So that's all it is. They're just investing in, who's the most likely to win, and then they just hedge their bets and put all their chips into that candidate. So, and it kind of sucks, because eventually the libertarians are gonna, the Libertarian Party will become more prominent, and then the globalists will buy out that party, and then they'll call themselves conservative and small government, and then they'll turn into the Republican Party, and then the next thing is the anarchist party. So. But eventually, I don't know, maybe people will wake up and start looking at the real issues instead of the political ties itself and being obsessed with the party and the flag and the colors. But thank you very much for listening, and have a good one.